guys, so I wanted to share a story with you. I've been going through the Old Testament, and a while back I went through the book of Ruth, and that's really good. Like, it's only 4 chapters. I don't know, God really revealed a lot to me through it, and I think the biggest thing was that it showed how purposeful he is, and how he does things in order to like fulfill the scriptures and to fulfill his promises. And it was just so beautiful. Like, I know that God does things for a purpose, but like to read something and really see like this had to happen, this had to happen, this had to happen, it was so beautiful. So I wanted to share that with you, because it really helped me to like have hope in like everything that happens, like good or bad. So the story is about Naomi, her husband, and her 2 sons, and there's a famine happening, so they go from Bethlehem to a place called Moab, which was not an Israelite tribe. They were people who didn't worship God, and they were wicked people, but it means that it must have been a pretty bad famine if they up and left and went into that city or that area. So, so the husband ends up dying. The sons get married, but then they end up dying later. So then it's just left with Naomi and her 2 daughter-in-laws. And being a widow back then was really like pretty much a sentence to poverty, because the guys were supposed to take care of you and provide for you. And so unless you had like a relative to take care of you, you were in trouble. You'd probably be begging. So she told her daughter-in-laws to go back to where they came from, because they're still young. They could probably remarry and be okay, be provided for. And one of them did go back, but Ruth, she actually stayed with Naomi, and she's like, where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And so God was providing back in like the Israelite nation. So they went back to Bethlehem, and there was a barley harvest happening soon. So they go there, and Ruth is the one harvesting like the barley. It's really cool because in Israelite law, they made sure that you had like if it's your field, God said, don't pick off the edges, leave that for the people who are needy, like the widows and the this or that, like anyone who couldn't provide for themselves, you were supposed to have that for them, which is great. Especially back then, there was like no hope. So God always provides for the needy. And so Ruth was doing that and collecting and working really hard to provide for her and her mother-in-law. And so she comes across a field that is owned by someone named Boaz, who actually is a relative of Naomi's, but they don't know that yet. And he's heard about how she is really helping out her mother-in-law and the situation, like how her husband died and Naomi's husband died, and how she left her own people to help her mother-in-law. Boaz is like, wow, that's amazing. And so he really offers a lot of resources to her to come back to his field and pick with his workers, and to tell the guys who are working to not harm her, because that happened sometimes in the fields, young females in fields, it was dangerous. So he was like, come to my field, you'll be safe. And so it was really good. And long story short, eventually they get married. And then so they're redeemed with him, because he can provide for both him and both for Ruth and Naomi. And so it's great. And eventually, down the line of their descendants, King David is in their line. and Jesus, Son of God, Redeemer of the world. So, like, I think my mind was blown. Like, God was doing all of this in order to get them to Bethlehem, meet Boaz, and then the line of Jesus, the lineage of Jesus is happening. And it was so beautiful to see, like, how God moves. 'Cause, like, if the famine didn't happen, they wouldn't have gone to Moab. If the husband had not died, but the sons were still dead, like, he probably would have provided for everyone. Like, or maybe she would have left the girls and went with her husband back to Bethlehem, but no Ruth in that situation. Or maybe if the husband had died but the sons were alive, the sons would have provided for Naomi, so she wouldn't need to go anywhere. And so it had to happen where both her husband and then her sons died, so that Ruth and Naomi would go together to Bethlehem, meet Boaz. So it's just this huge, like, thing that happened, like, purposeful in order for the thing to happen that needed to happen, so that Jesus, Lord and Savior, saves the world. So it's just like, whoa, my mind is blown. Like, but God knows what he's doing, and he's so purposeful. And last Sunday the pastor was saying how like there's no pain that God allows without there being a purpose. And in this case, you know, Naomi had to deal with so much loss and so much pain, but she would end up being redeemed, and she would end up being part of this huge plan that would eventually bring about Jesus. Like, what? And, like, she didn't know that, but it was just part of God's beautiful plan. And in the same way, I think there's a lot that happens in our lives that's hard, and there is a purpose for it, because the same God that was in the Old Testament is the same God that we serve now, who loves us, who has a plan for us and a purpose. And so we have to hold on to those truths, that he's doing something, and we can't see the big picture. God has this eternal perspective, so we really just have to hold on and just know that God is doing something. And I think that really gave me a lot of hope. Like, Naomi she wasn't feeling great, but she never lost sight of God, and she was always faithful that, you know, God would come through, and she praised God so much. So, like, in the same way, when the bad stuff happens, we can't turn away and let go of God. We need to cling to him even more. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that because it gave me a lot of hope, and I hope it does for you too. Okay, bye.